welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Acton, and with me is Travis Singleton, the Sneaker Reporter. Travis, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. I'm doing good. Still recovering from last night, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, they saddled us with an 8:30 p.m. local time tip, and then they went, well, let's throw on 8,000 video reviews and an overtime period on top of that. I was up until like 2 in the morning or something like that, so it's a quick turnaround podcast in that sense.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, that's the beauty of podcasting, consistency, and we got to give it to these fans the way that they need it right away.
Absolutely. Well, let's dig into the Timberwolves game last night. They beat the Rockets 110-108 in overtime, and we were kind of chatting right before this. That was, I don't know what adjective I want to use, but one of the weirdest games at Target Center that I've covered there. Just from just purely like the game in terms of they're up 11 with 3 minutes left. I think it was three or so minutes left. Houston goes on a 12-0 run to take the lead. There's Julius gives the Wolves the lead back. There's a Julius flagrant in there. We'll talk about whether we agreed or disagreed with that one.
Yeah.
And away from the play foul that gives the Houston the game tying free throw, but then they turn it over, and Randall almost goes and wins the game, and a no call on that final play, and Şengün comes up with a bloody lip that it seemed like he bit on his way, like as he hit the floor. And then Houston starts the overtime 13-0, and the Wolves come back from the biggest overtime deficit since they kept keeping track of that sort of stuff in 1997. And they broke the record of, who was it? Oh, the Wolves back on Christmas themselves on the other end of it, losing the game. The Wolves close out the overtime on a 15-0 run. Ant and Io were out before the game. Jaden got injured in the fourth quarter. Nas was ejected during that stretch for
Rudy fouled out.
And Rudy fouled out. They had Terrence Shannon in there with a defensive net rating of 0 because they didn't the other team didn't score. Just an insane game. The only game that really comes to mind was the last game of the season a few years ago against New Orleans, where the Rudy shoves Kyle Anderson in the huddle and Jaden McDaniels punches a wall, breaking his hand. And another game where it's like they won that game. What were any thoughts on just the craziness at Target Center last night?
I mean, the emotions were all over the place if you're a fan, right? Like, I mean, 1 minute you're down, when they were down in OT with 3 minutes left, about 3 minutes left, and I started seeing those fans leave, I tweeted out. I said those fans. I said the Wolves are fighting back. Those fans they're gonna regret leaving, because the momentum started shifting, and I mean, it was just. I've been covering the Wolves since. Yeah, me and Rudy came the same year. So that's the best. That's one of the best games I've ever seen in Target Center. I mean, from a up and down standpoint, I mean, even I saw like the ESPN, like, the prediction and everything like that throughout the game. It was like 0.3 point something percent chance for them to win in overtime at one point, and for them to come back and do that, I mean, that was special, man. I'm glad I was able to see some history. I'm glad that the Wolves are on the right side of history for once. And it seems like ever since Ants came into the league, the Wolves have definitely been on the right side of history. So, but last night was unreal. I can only imagine how you feel, just being a Timberwolves fan and covering the team and just being around the team for so long. Like I'm still new to the fan base. I'm some years in, but it was special to like watch that and like the diehard fans that didn't leave.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Minnesota sports in there, the defeatism a little bit with people heading out into the crowd. But yeah, let's dive into some of the specifics of the game. So a couple calls down the stretch of the game were very interesting. The Julius flagrant, I tweeted it out. I frankly, it's 1000% a common foul.
Yeah.
Like he runs over someone setting a screen, that's a foul. But like, I mean, Finch said it after, like, they just never seen that as a flagrant, and I tend to agree. I don't really see, like, Foster's explanation was that he, like, launched into the defender,
Yeah.
and I just don't think he saw him. Like, I don't understand how that one was a flagrant. The Nas ejection, reading lips, it just sounded like he said he's moving. He was
Correct.
moving. Now we don't. Maybe Nas said something earlier
Yeah.
that was deemed as ejection worthy. It's kind of the intel I got. It wasn't necessarily that exact sentence that was it was a buildup of other things earlier in the game
Mm-hmm.
from Nas. But yeah, but I guess before we break down the game of it all, what did you think of some of the? There are so many reviews, man. Even the ones that
Yeah.
no one had a problem with, like, just way too slow of a game pace.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there were a lot of reviews, a lot of plays that I thought were questionable, calls on the flagrant. I definitely agree with you. I thought it was a common foul. I didn't see anything that made it. He didn't have any force. Julius has force. So if he's
Yeah.
gonna knock you over, he's gonna he's gonna knock you over. I also didn't, the even when they tried to get Bones for that foul too, I thought that was a little iffy, with Eason on that play. And then obviously the non-call at the end of regulation with Julius, I thought that was crazy. Like I thought that was definitely a foul at the body. So there was some stuff that I felt like was missed, and there's some stuff that is like it can go either way. But the game had all the dramatics that you that you definitely needed.
Mhm.
But usually the Wolves, when things go against them, usually it doesn't turn out good. But I like the fact that they continue to fight, plug away, play by play. Defensively, Julius definitely needs to get some recognition too for the job he did on Sengun. Like, I mean, he played outstanding in OT with the limited players that they had. So overall, the officiating, though, like I said, it was questionable, but the Wolves came out on top.
Yeah, I think the Wolves' response to both the physical play, regardless, like the physical play, just not an officiating thing or a positive for Houston. Like the way they were playing in that sense, how the Wolves responded to that. And
Yeah.
I thought especially the way they both responded the first 3 quarters of the game, where the officials were not calling much, um, not even unfairly, like just on both ends of the court. And I thought the Wolves, like, dude, the body language from Houston, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
every time they'd make a bad play, Şengün would be like looking back at the bench, like, what? Like oh,
He's either
that's a
looking at
bad,
the bench or he's looking at the refs. That's all he
yeah,
did. Like
someone.
that was all he did. I'm
It's just,
noticing right now though, watching that Houston team, KD touches the ball like every possession. And the thing about them is they got to find somebody else that can really be able to get it going. Like if Sangoon's not going, and then it's just the KD show, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of OKC's offense when I was covering KD back with Russ. It's like it's one or the other. So they got to figure it out. But yeah, to your point though, I mean, anytime he was flailing, he was. I mean, he was on the ground all night.
mhm. Yeah,
Sangoon.
I know KD's your guy a little bit, but
Yeah.
let's talk about Houston for a second before we go back to the Wolves. It feels like you talk about like their offense reminding you of like OKC days with the kind of like not enough ball movement or whatever. It's starting to feel like that's not like that kind of thing. Basically, in every stop besides Golden State has followed KD around, and the other thing that's seemingly followed him around, especially post Golden State, is like there's just bad vibes. This is now 3 straight teams where the vibes around around Kevin Durant's team have been really subpar.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when last summer when the Wolves were theoretically involved with the Kevin Durant trade, I would have kind of brushed that aside and more put that at the feet of organizations like Brooklyn and Phoenix.
Yeah.
But I mean, Houston had a great season coming into the season, and certainly injuries to Van Vliet and Adams are certainly big deals. But like,
for sure.
what do you think of the idea that like a lot of the bad vibes and maybe even like their offense bogging down, as good of an offensive player as he is, like I feel like Durant has to shoulder some blame for a lot of that.
I got you. I mean, one thing I know about KD, and from just covering him, just knowing him as a person, when I was around him, like he's a hooper. Like,
For sure.
and the thing is, he doesn't care what day it is, what time it is. He's gonna go out there and perform, and he's gonna hoop. Like, he's gonna find his shots. He's a certified professional bucket getter. So it doesn't matter what situation he's in, he's gonna get his. I think the problem is when you have to have a team around him that's moving the ball, and when you don't have a pure point guard, like when he was with Golden State, that ball was moving, it was hopping, because you had a point forward with Draymond, and then you still had Steph doing his thing. And when look at his situations, I mean, Harden's not really a pure point guard; he's a scorer to me. Kyrie's a scorer to me. Even in Phoenix, they didn't have a true point guard. They were playing Bradley Beal at the point. So I think it hasn't been fair since he's left, and I thought he was going to get it straightened out with Van Vliet, in Houston as the point guard. But with him being hurt, now it puts them back in a situation where it looks sticky. The ball looks sticky. And some of that has to be on him. But I will say that defensively, he's turned into a hell of a defensive player since I covered him. And I don't really put the bad vibes on him. Like I said, it's just more so he's a hooper, but a lot of the things around him haven't gelled the way they need to. From a playmaking perspective, point guard play. I don't think it has anything to do with coaching. I think Ime is doing an amazing job with what he has. But he definitely has to play with a true point guard and somebody that's going to look for him instead of the last couple of point guards, so-called point guards he's played with. They're looking for their shot just as much as he's looking for his.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why they didn't address that at the deadline. It's
I
not
thought
to
they
say,
were. I thought they
yeah,
were.
and to a certain extent, them playing Reed Shepherd and starting him more is part of that. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Mike played pretty well last night, and
yeah,
like they could have traded for Mike Conley. Maybe not. Maybe the salaries don't work out.
Yeah.
But
I
like a
thought they
player
were
like
going for Garland. I thought they were going to go for Garland originally, and throw some picks and give a couple of asset players at the end of the bench.
Yeah, I think the problem is like Cleveland was trying to win and still trying to win. So like, I don't think in the offseason, if Garland was still in Cleveland, then maybe you could entice them with picks and then Cleveland can flip those picks into a player. But like, I think that would be a perfect fit with this roster. But like, I don't think Houston wasn't going to give up any of the quality current day players that they have. So let's shift back to the Wolves for a little bit here. Scott Foster was a big character in this game. Unfortunately, that's far too often what happens with him in these games. I felt like, and I sent this out, I felt like this was the first game the entire season where I felt like the officiating right now is impacting the result of this game. And I don't, to be honest, like I think they were like they were bad both ways. Like if Houston was frustrated with the officiating too, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them on their end. But like I just thought like it was the Scott Foster show, and that's unfortunate because aside from that, this was an awesome game. This was as fun and entertaining as a regular season game gets. I think it's important to point out that after the final buzzer, Julius was like yelling and pointing at Scott Foster after the game, and then I'm standing in the doorway of the media room, setting down my backpack, and here comes Julius walking by, and he yells out, "That shit didn't work, Scott Foster." So I sent that out. We'll see you. Hopefully, Julius doesn't get a fine for that because he in the post game when he was asked about the flagrant, you mentioned like I don't want to get fined. Wasn't willing to really dig into that specific call. Certainly get that, and you get the sense behind the scenes. Their discussions with staffers were not we're likely a lot more pointed at the officiating than of course we get on the official record or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
Wait a minute,
did
wait
you?
a minute, wait a minute. The real question is, if Julius gets fined, if he's coming up to you, hey man, Ryan, you got something to put on this? Are you gonna put something on it?
I mean, I will put. I could. I'd be willing to put forth the percentage of my salary that it is the percentage of Julius's salary. Does that make sense?
I got you. All right, as long as you're willing to put something down, that's all that matters.
No, I mean, hey, look, if I was snooping around their locker room or whatever, being somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, and I
Yeah,
sent that out, then of course, like that looks awful on me. I am standing in the doorway of the media room. Like if
yeah,
there's a place in the whole building I'm allowed to be or listen to what people are saying, it's in the door frame of the
of the media room.
media
I
room.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
I agree.
and to be honest, I think that's why Julius said what he said where he said it, because he knew people would hear him and he
That
wanted to get his point across. And we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if he does get that fine, because I don't know how the NBA works with that stuff. He didn't say it on the record. It's not like the NBA is reaching out to me to validate, like, I
yeah.
am like, there's
Hey,
no
are you
video.
sure? Are you sure he said it?
I That's not
That's the
for
thing. It's
me
like
to
if they,
right.
hey, if they made a full investigation trying to figure out if he really said it, I would laugh.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I think they got bigger. I hope they got bigger issues or bigger problems to solve. But I do just kind of agree with me that
Yeah,
the officiating was. I mean, I really don't like bringing up the officiating just because it's like the game's so fun. But like there's like a game or two a year, and like I said, this was the only game I can think of this year. Where it's like you just have to talk about it, because I felt like the officials didn't have control of that game, especially late.
yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I felt like there were some calls that were definitely missed, and I'm gonna say on both sides, right? Because there were some times where I thought KD got fouled and he didn't get the calls either. So I thought it was both ways, and the game was officiated the way it was supposed to be. And I think the NBA and ESPN got what they wanted as well, as far as the ratings and they got the dramatics that they wanted. But I thought some of the calls were definitely egregiously missed. Like Julius definitely got fouled in the regulation. I definitely thought that was going to be 2 free throws. Um, but yeah, and then some of those calls, like I said, throughout the flagrant call on him as well. Like some of those things, even when they called Rudy in the first half for that flagrant, so-called flagrant on Sengun when he was flailing and flopping, they're like, oh no, that was common. That was common. It's like we keep stopping the game
Yeah.
for stuff that we didn't need to stop it for, and I think also going into it, I think Houston's like, hey, if he gets one more flagrant, that's a suspension for Rudy. So I think they're also looking into stuff like that where they're like, we need to play chess and not checkers. So so there was just a lot of a lot of interesting calls that were made and missed.
Yeah, let's talk about Rudy, because I thought his game was especially impressive in this one. 14 points, 7 of 13 from the field, uh, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. I
Yeah,
thought he was just spectacular in this game, and the premier example of that was late in the game, late in regulation, I believe. Yeah, late in regulation, he gets switched out on Durant.
yeah,
This is like the social media moment coming, right? Durant hits.
yep,
We can all picture it. Durant hits the shot, hits the buzzer beater or whatever, and the Rockets win, and Rudy can't. All the narratives of Rudy can't guard in space are there, and Durant does get a step on him, and Rudy kind of was leaning the wrong way for a second, but like his ability to recover after that and block the jump shot and then deflect the like subsequent pass out of bounds, like just a truly insane sequence from Rudy.
yeah,
And I thought you mentioned the flagrant points that he has. I thought there was a sequence where he got hit on the head, which is a like a sensitive thing for him. And every time I see him get hit in the head, I think we all do. We kind of perk up. Okay, what's going to happen here? Because that's a couple of those flagrants he's gotten previously have come from that.
yeah,
And he a couple of sessions later, he got called for a foul and a rebound. loose ball foul, and you saw him go right to the official, be like, he hit me on the other. Like, if you're gonna call this, you have to call that. And
Yeah.
I thought like that was kind of happening all night. Um, and it's really been happening all season. It's just it is what it is. That Rudy, it feels like he just gets clobbered on on one end and doesn't get hit the calls for himself on the other end.
Yeah.
But I thought his ability to, like, he had a moment of frustration, as seemingly everyone on both rosters had last night, but
Yeah.
was able to continue to play extraordinarily well despite like the physicality or whatever perceived lack of officiating he did or didn't get in the game. Um, this is just for the Wolves to reach whatever ceiling, for them to win X playoff series. This is the Rudy Gobert they're going to need to get. And at least for one game, I thought it was a really impressive performance.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, 5 blocks defensively. He set the tone, to start the game off. And one thing that I'm noticing about Rudy now, when he's getting the ball, he's making a dribble move to the basket now. Now he's at least trying to, get to the cup, do a reverse. He's trying to get to the cup to do a dunk, and he's putting a body, an elbow on people. Like now he's trying to develop that, and I've been noticing that. Shout out to Dane for bringing that up last game. But he's been able to really flourish, in this offense. On this stretch, he's on a great stretch right now where he's just offensively been doing what he needs to do, but also defensively, deflections, blocks, defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding, the putback dunks he's getting now. Like he's being a lot more active. And we saw some of that last night, and I love what he's doing. And like you said, to your point, if KD makes that jumper on him, everybody's talking about him, post game and beating him up, on social media. But he stepped up in the moments that mattered, and he did what he was supposed to do. I'm curious to see how all this meshes together when Ant comes back and when we get a full healthy roster, So hopefully we'll be able to see that, this weekend. But like you said, if we get this type of Rudy on a nightly basis, going into the playoffs, I think this could be a scary out for any team, especially if they're playing like this, and people in the NBA definitely think that last year's Western Conference Final was a fluke. Oh, there was injuries, this injury that, Steph was out. So I think this is one of those where it's like, all right, like Wolves get the chance to really show, if they're a true legit contender, which I think they are. And if Rudy plays like I really don't see, with Rudy's defense, Io's defense, and with Jaden's defense, all three of them. I think that those guys leading the anchor, and then obviously Ant buckles down whenever he wants to. I think that this could be a special run that we're about to see.
Yeah, I mean it kind of has to be at this point in the season, right? Like I think we're kind of running out running out of runway for them to really
Yeah,
start hitting their stride. Um yeah, a couple more players I wanted to talk about. Or first, Rudy had an interaction with Andrew Dukowitz of zone coverage in the locker room. I thought that was fairly interesting. Just like I think all of us in Minnesota know that Rudy has been a fantastic isolation defender.
yeah,
And it's really just like a social media clip thing, like the Luca shot from 2 years ago or whatever.
yeah,
And so Dukowitz asked him about that. And Rudy jokingly asked him to repeat it, like repeat that he is a good defender. So
yeah,
I'll have people go check out that clip. With Ant, I would guess that he's going to play on Saturday. I don't really have, that's just reading tea leaves. I think that's just watching him on the bench. I think like that kind of seems likely. If not Saturday, I would really expect on Monday, because if he does miss Saturday, he can only miss one more game the rest of the season
yeah,
before he's ineligible for All NBA. So if he does end up missing Saturday, I would expect that they'll try to get him in the rest of the game so that he can be eligible for All NBA. But I don't know. I think Saturday might be a potential for him.
I just think that if they lost last night, then I would have had them play Saturday. And the fact that they won, I think that you rest them one more game. You rest him one more game. You already know that Cade Cunningham's out. You know that Detroit's coming in here. I think that's a winnable game for them. If Cade Cunningham was playing, then I would have said Ant needs to play. But I would right now I'm at the point in the season where I feel like him getting that extra rest, that extra chance to get that rest before the playoff run. I think you take advantage of that if you're the Wolves, especially with the circumstances with Detroit.
Yeah, I think if they're willing to sacrifice his All-NBA candidacy, then that makes a lot of sense. I just think that that's going to be a priority for them. And ultimately, if he's not healthy, then there's no discussion, right? But
Yeah.
I think if he's ready to go, they play him. And if they're looking to, like you said, get him like an off day, I think one of these back-to-backs, either like they can sit him on one of the back-to-backs. And I think that'd be like a better use of if he's only going to miss one more game. But yeah, ultimately, like they're not sitting him out for no reason, right? Like he had knee inflammation, like, and if that we haven't really gotten an update, but if that inflammation is still there, then like there's nothing to talk about. Like he's not going to play.
Correct.
All right, let's talk about Jaden McDaniels, who did leave the game kind of at the end of the fourth quarter. He called it like it felt like he was cramping a little bit, but he ultimately said that he feels fine, should be okay. So we'll see if he's like listed questionable on the injury report for Saturday or not. But another just a classic. They have Kevin Durant, but we got Jaden McDaniels type of game from Jaden, and especially when they pulled away at the end of regulation, not far enough away, I get it turned out, but like it came from Jaden, who 25 points, 10 of 17 shooting, a pair of steals, a pair of blocks. Okay, dominant two-way. We talk about needing this from Rudy. This type of performance. It's been a relatively inconsistent, maybe, Jaden McDaniels season. But certainly overall improved offensively, especially. And the stretch where he hits a 3-pointer, strips KD, and goes for the dunk to put him up 11.
That was crazy.
Incredible stretch from Jaden, who it's just another step for him, especially offensively. Like no Ant, no Io. They got to find offense somewhere, and Jaden McDaniels ends up being their leading scorer.
Yeah, that was. I've seen Jaden now for a couple years now, and I think that was a sequence that I've never seen from him that was extremely impressive. I mean, like you said, hit the three, then all right, I'm gonna check KD, going down the court, strips him at half court, and then takes it back and dunks the ball, and then he said that he yelled something towards Ime. It wasn't directed at KD, but he said that he was talking more so to the coach. Man, like he's been special, man. He's been special all season, both ways. Two-way player. And I hope he's getting the recognition that he deserves. And obviously teams are noticing it too. If the so-called Milwaukee trade, they were like, we need Jaden McDaniels. So I'm starting to see that teams are finding out who he is, what he does on a nightly basis, and why Anthony Edwards is like, this is my favorite player. So some of the stuff he does defensively, the defensive rating, I mean, and he's still giving you that offense that you need nightly now. A couple years back when I first got here, he would stop the other player, but offensively he wasn't where he needed to be as far as now. Now I think when he gets to that mid range, he's like, I can see the hoop and get my shot anytime I want. And before it wasn't like that. And we saw a lot of that last night. And we even seen some of his cutting and stuff as well, his slashing, and that's what makes him so special now, because he's scoring on every phase of the game. And it was special to see last night, man. I as soon as he went out the game, I was a little worried though. And obviously, the Rockets started coming back after he got out the game, but it worked out.
Yeah, well, they kind of started to come back while he was out there, but like was clearly hobbled, and then that was kind of a part of the Houston comeback. Is Finch probably classic second guess here, but Finch probably should have called a timeout just to get Jaden off the court. Easier said now than in with
the moment,
the
for sure.
Yeah. Just I don't know, a truly crazy night at Target Center. Like it's important to note, like, the Wolves were playing better in this game for the first 45 minutes of the game. Like, I thought they were
Correct.
thoroughly outplaying Houston without Ant, without Io. Like that in and of itself is impressive. That they were able to win this game, even if Houston is kind of sputtering. And that like makes me think about, like, can the Wolves keep playing like they did last night? And it's less about like Ant coming back, and if people feel like he's gonna ruin the vibes. I don't have any sort of issues with that. I think Ant will come back just fine. I'm
Yeah.
more thinking of this team is just very seldom. Something that's always been true about this team is whenever you think like they're ready to go shoot the moon, they'll come crashing down. And every time you think that they have hit rock bottom, they bounce right back up. And this is a good example of that. Like, it wasn't just or little over a week ago, Ant was rolled out for this stretch. It looked they were playing a Phoenix team that they had lost. They would have been only a game up on the plan, and they win 4 or 5 without Ant, which is impressive. Weirdly, like, the second easiest game of that entire stretch is the one they lost, and the two most difficult games in Boston and last night against Houston are the ones that they won. Which is again another classic. But like my question, like, in terms of can they keep playing like this, is like, at a certain point they just got to go on a run, and it's basically now or never. Like, we're just like, there it is. There's a championship team, and they got to play like it for multiple weeks. I did some research. Since 1979, every single NBA champion has at some point during the regular season won 7 or more games in a row. Every single one.
Wow,
The
I didn't know
Wolves'
that.
the Wolves' longest winning streak is 5. And some of that is like, does that mean the Wolves are in, like, it's impossible for them to win the title? No. But I more think it points out, like, championship teams are incredibly consistent.
Yeah.
It's not every team has ups and downs, but like, there's just at a certain point in the seasons, you need to go on these huge runs. And the Wolves really haven't. The other stat was like, every NBA champion over the same time range has won. Like, the teams that only won had a 7 or 8 game winning streak. All those teams at some point won 9 of 10 games. Had a stretch where they won 9 of their last 10 games. Wolves don't have a stretch like that either. So to me, it's like, it's not that they have to win, so they've won the last 2. It's not that they have to win their next 5 games. The schedule, even without Cade, like, only one of those games is like they get Detroit, Dallas, Detroit, Philly, Charlotte. Like, winning all 5 of those should not be the expectation. But like, I just think the way they played last night has to carry through, to at least to a certain extent, through the rest of this regular season. Because to me, if they have another stretch of, or like the California road trip they had a couple weeks ago, they have another one of those stretches. I mean, they can still win in the first round, but like that can't happen anymore.
Yeah, I'm hoping that last night's overtime win kind of like sparks something, right? Like, every team needs something to get them going. Like, oh, like, this is our moment of the season. I don't think I can recall a team having a moment like that, like, so late in the season, going into like the playoffs. So I'm hoping that, this kind of catapults them. Ant was running on the court, dapping up and shouldering everybody, and, it looked like it was a moment where it was like everybody came together, like, look, we didn't quit, and we know that we're in every game no matter what the situation is. And sometimes you need you need a moment like that, a defining moment. That's what it is. You need a defining moment on the season where you're like, okay, this is the moment that we can look back at and be like, you know what, things click. So I'm hoping that that was the moment for them, because I mean, for the whole season, I mean, can you think of a defining moment for the season? I mean,
no,
I really can't. So when it comes to it, I think hopefully that one, showing that they came back, showing nobody quit. They play with heart. Defensively, Julius showed like, hey, I can step up when I need to. And then you add Io back, you add Ant back to the mix. Get something going. They might have that little 9 out of 10. You never know. So anything's possible at the end of the season. I mean, they got a stretch right here coming. before the playoffs, and they just got to take care of business. But it's all about stacking up wins, building that camaraderie, and if they do it at the right time, it's honestly all that championship stuff. I respect it. I respect the research, but it's all about who's hot going into the playoffs at this point. I feel like because everything's a toss up. I feel like back in the day, if somebody was a clear cut number one, they were the clear cut number one. And you knew they were going to run the table. I feel like nowadays it's like the West is so stacked that you don't know who's somebody can somebody can have a losing streak going into the playoffs and then just catch fire at the right time. So anything's possible. But one thing I do want to say is if the Wolves are going to be successful, I agree with you 100%. They need Rudy to play like this on a nightly basis and be able to, because when Rudy plays like this, it frees up the floor for everybody to be where they need to be. And when you can play within your own position without trying to help, because Rudy's being the anchor, I think that's gonna solidify them as a true title contender.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably should have brought this up earlier. I think Julius falls in that same category too. And
Yeah.
I thought he played pretty well last night. Especially because like I think if you look at his numbers, you might not see the impact. Like poor shooting night, 11 of 27 from the floor, had 5 turnovers. It's for watching Julius, it's not about the numbers. It's about like the defensive impact and like the assists. Assists are like assists and rebounds, 6 rebounds, six assists. Like, and not even offensive rebounds, like just defensive rebounds. He had 5 in this game.
Yeah.
Like that's like the biggest category is having him engaged and involved, which is we talk about inconsistency. Julius, as much as anyone, is at the forefront of that. And he's talked about like his mental health being so important. I thought like tonight was a good mental health game in the sense of like they got down. Like the fact that they came back from 13-0 down in overtime, I think just is so extraordinarily impressive. And you mentioned a good thing, like a signature moment or whatever. Like they've had some solid wins. Like they beat Oklahoma City twice. Like those are solid games. They had Ant was incredible in the clutch of that San Antonio win that they beat with Wemby. The Denver win recently at the beginning of March was a solid performance, but like it felt like all of those performances I can pick out. Like, so the Denver win recently, they lost 3 in a row in like as bad of a 3-game stretch as the Wolves have ever had not that long after. Oklahoma City wins, like they have losses after that. The San Antonio win, they win the 2 days later in Milwaukee, but then they lose 5 in a row immediately after that. So like I think like that's what I talked about, and you mentioned like getting hot. Like if they follow up, and it's not like if they lose to Detroit on Saturday, it is what it is. But like if they followed up with another stretch of like, what is this team doing? Where are they going? Then like that's going to be really. I'm just extraordinarily curious to see how they respond in the next game or two to a game like this and what it looks like. And it's and we can talk about like the standings and the win. It's not to me. It's like it's less about like the outcomes of the game. Even last night, like if KD hits those 2 free throws and we go to double overtime, okay. But like the fact it's almost like it's about vibes weirdly at this point because I felt like the vibes have been off almost from the tip. And so if they can, whatever mental block is there with that, if they can remove that, then like the sky's the limit.
I agree. Like I said, every team needs a defining moment. So I'm hoping that, last night was that defining moment because it's a big deal if you can win without, look, no Ant, no IO, no Jaden on the floor, no Rudy on the floor, and you can still pull that out. That's a defining moment to me. Showing like, hey, look, we got some dogs on this team that can still get it done. And every team needs something like that to happen on the season. And the fact that, like I said, it happened so late in the season, this might be a perfect catapult going into postseason. So they just got to build on this win, make it mean something. That's the thing. If you make the win mean something, then great. Like if you made history. So if you make the history make sense and make it mean something, then build off of it moving forward and use that as the, that was the moment of the season. Like I'm like when I think of defining moment, like it always comes to my head with the Red Sox. Like when our season was dead in the water in '04, and then when Veritek and A-Rod got into it, then all of a sudden that catapulted everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I didn't mean to bring up A-Rod. I love you, but you know that catapulted the situation for that season. So it's like the team needed something to go through. They went through some trials and tribulations last night, but they made it out. So hopefully they can use that.
So what you're saying is last night was the Dave Roberts steal against Rivera to tie the game. Okay,
Correct.
I like that.
You know, so they needed something like that, like right, like this season has been so up and down.
Which play was A-Rod knocking the ball out of the first baseman's hand? Which one? Which play of that?
That would probably be if I was gonna say that play, that would probably be. I'd probably say that was the Jaden play. You know, with the KD, because at that point I felt like things started switching. The momentum started switching after that. Even though the Rockets came back, but it started catapulting things. And then I would say the Rudy block would probably be the exclamation point on that part at that part.
Exactly. Well, we could do a whole. I that's like quick aside. Like that series is like when I fell in love with baseball. That Red Sox, because I bleeping hate the Yankees with all my soul. Like
we're in the same boat.
I don't like with the NBA. A lot of that like tribalism has gone away covering the team, right? And like I but the Yankees, man. Oh, yeah. So trust me, with Alex Rodriguez, I think Alex is probably my least favorite, or like my childhood most hated sports figure of my life. Like the fact that he owns the Timberwolves is.
Yeah, I would get disowned in Boston if I was ever caught, and even if he was even in the vicinity of one of my photos, I would get disowned. I feel like nobody in Boston would talk to me ever again.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, hey, there's only so much you can do covering his team, right?
Correct. That's why I love A-Rod. We love A-Rod. This is a We Love A-Rod podcast.
Well, no, here's a good. They came out with HBO did a documentary about him, and I think it was titled A-Rod versus Alex, like the two kind of different.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
we can like Alex, but can we still dislike A-Rod, the baseball player, the Yankee? You know, like.
Okay, I like that. I like what you did there. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, because you're not changing my opinion of Alex Rodriguez, the New York Yankee. Alex Rodriguez, the person that was at Target Center last night. All that, I got no problem with him. All right, let's take a quick look at the standings, because I think that's gonna plays a big deal, because I think in a lot of ways the win last night, we're barreling towards a high speed train towards the trilogy with the Nuggets. That series is by far the most likely for the Wolves at this point. They're currently a half game back. Most notably, that half game is in the win column, which is much easier to make up than if they were a loss back. Denver does have the tiebreaker. So they need to. So the Nuggets have 8 games left, and the Wolves have 9. To pass Denver and get home court, you'll have to win more games than them the rest of the way. You're now a game and a half up on Houston for 6. We can debate whether it'd rather be 4 or 5 or 6. But that the seeding with the Rockets will almost certainly be determined unless Houston falls apart, which maybe can't be overlooked. But second to last game of the season in Houston, Friday night. That game not only would obviously be another like 2-game swing, because one team wins, once the team loses, but the tiebreaker will be determined that night. So if either team is within a game of each other going into that, then like that's a
huge game.
You'll catch up and clinch the tiebreaker, or vice versa. If you're tied, one team will take a game lead and then get the tiebreaker, which in that case there'd be 1 game left, like you'd clinch being above them. So that's when that will be determined. But the other thing is you're 2 full games back of the Lakers, who have a fairly easy schedule. Unfortunately, I've mentally kind of given up on passing the Lakers, not because I think you're going to have to go like 8-1 down the stretch to catch the Lakers. So if you do that, 8-1 would put you at 53 wins. Like the Lakers would have to go 5-4 or worse. And 5-4, like their next, they got 2 more wins. Next game for them is Brooklyn, and then after that is Washington. They have Dallas on their schedule. They have Utah on their schedule. Like I don't think they're going like.
Yeah, they're not going 5-4.
I think like that's like the low percentage outcome. Like a bad finish to the season would be 5-4, and like if they do that, they'll also have to go 8-1 because the Lakers have the tiebreaker. So I think it's gonna be 4, 5, 6 for the Wolves, and I don't know. There's a reasonable path to say being 6 isn't the worst thing in the world and playing the Lakers instead of the Nuggets, but certainly the Wolves aren't going to see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think the Wolves are a team that people don't want to run into. I don't think teams want to run into the Wolves.
I don't think Denver fans want it very much.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like at the end of the day, I mean, I think the Wolves are just going to roll the ball out, and whoever they play, they got to play. I mean, they've already proven they can beat both of those teams. They've beaten the Lakers, and last year we saw Julius Randle bully the hell out of LeBron and them boys in the paint. And then, obviously with the Nuggets, we got significant history with them, so in the postseason. So I think they're built for both of those teams. It's more so the teams that I'm worried about. The one team I'm worried about is the Spurs. I'm worried about the Spurs. OKC. I think that OKC is beatable if you can stop the head of the snake, obviously with Shea. But if you can't, then that's going to be a problem. But I think that teams need to look at OKC. I mean, teams need to look at Minnesota as well. Back-to-back trips to the Western Conference Finals, like they're proven as well, and Ant's going to be motivated as well because he doesn't like the fact of obviously getting that close and not getting to the finals. So he's going to be playing determined as well. So for matchup wise, I like us playing. If we're going to run into the Nuggets, I'd rather play the Nuggets because I know that I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are more built for the Nuggets. But I don't like the stretch that Luka's on right now. So if we ran into the Lakers and Luka's playing out his mind like this, I don't like that. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said. So you said that we won't be able to catch the Lakers.
Probably not.
Okay, so yeah.
I guess would you rather? There are 3 separate scenarios. Basically, I mean, like I said, if the Lakers go 5-4, Wolves got to go 8-1 to get the 3 seed. Yeah. Maybe that's possible. Maybe we'll see. It's probably better to wait another week. Because the Wolves could have a solid week, go 3-2 against tough teams, but like that might take them out of the running for the 3 seed. But of the 3 scenarios, 4 seed playing Denver, 5 seed playing Denver, or 6 seed playing the Lakers, I think by far the worst outcome would be the 5 seed playing on the road against the Nuggets, and then having to go to Oklahoma City for the potential second round. Like that'd be tough. The question would be, would you rather be the 4 seed and play the Nuggets and have home court, or be the 6 seed and play the Lakers? I think that's a fair. I think I'd probably rather be the 6 seed, but also like, as I say that, and I talk about like they need to find consistency, they need to close the season strong. Well, if they do that, after last night's win, if they do that, there's no way they drop to 6. Like they're just going to stay ahead of Houston. So it almost doesn't matter what I think I'd rather them be. It's at this point, like the best case scenario is probably the 4 seed where you get a tough Denver team, but at least you get them at home.
Yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, I either way, I'm always like Ric Flair, man. To beat a man, you got to beat the man. So if we're at number 5 and we got to beat Denver, and then we got to go to OKC and beat OKC, like you got to deal with. You're gonna have to run into these teams, And I don't think Ant's running away from those teams. He wants those teams, So just think of a run where you could say, "Hey, I beat Joker, I beat SGA," and then what if he ran into Wemby to go to the NBA Finals? That'd be impressive.
Yeah, and I also think kind of to a certain extent, maybe playing Oklahoma City in the second round versus the conference finals, like maybe that helps. Can't go a whole lot worse than it did last year in the West Finals. And I think also if they are to lose to any of these teams we mentioned, like I don't think it matters where the Wolves are. It doesn't matter if that comes in the West Finals, the second round, the first. Like it doesn't really matter. Like they've made everything short of the finals. So if they're gonna lose, doing so earlier against like a Thunder team where you can again get a second straight measuring stick series against them, decide where you are. Like I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. As much as I
Yeah,
want them to keep playing in the playoffs, like I don't know. I agree with you. Like I'm not sure it matters when you play these teams.
correct.
You're you're probably gonna have to run through them all, especially like Oklahoma City. Like I think to me that they're the clear title favorite. So like that's the team you're gonna have to, if you're gonna want to win the finals, you're almost certainly gonna have to go through them.
Yeah, and I don't want I don't want them to do what they did a couple years back with Denver. When remember they was like, all right, if we beat Denver, we should be good because we got Dallas just
Mm-hmm.
sitting there, and then all of a sudden Dallas was a buzzsaw, and we saw what happened with that series. But I don't want them to beat OKC and be like, oh yeah, we did it now. Oh yeah, and then they run into the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals, and they run into the buzzsaw. So it's like they got to make sure series by series, game by game, lock in and focus on what they got to, whatever the assignment is for that game, defensively and offensively, and focus on it. And I think they could do it. I think the top 6 teams in the West, top 5. I think the top 5 teams in the West can definitely win a championship. I really do. It just depends on how the chips fall. That's honestly what it is. Matchup by matchup, who lines up with who.
Yeah, I'm still a little dubious of the Wolves' chances of that. I've given you my reasons why.
Yeah,
Um, I'm still kind of dubious of the Lakers because I'm not sure they're that much better than last year, and like their net rating numbers don't signify them as a title team. With the Spurs, I think maybe I'll end up being wrong, and certainly they have looked phenomenal this season. I just think if your entire team, aside from H Barnes, hasn't, most of them other than Fox, haven't even been in a playoff series, I just
yeah,
I think that matters. It's not to say they will be huge favorites in the first round and will almost certainly win. And I would probably pick them, especially if it's the Lakers there. I would probably pick them to make the West Finals. I just think like that in terms of winning 4 straight playoff series, I think that'll get them at some point.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but in the East, I think the Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be fun, especially if it turns out if the top 4 teams make it through Detroit, Boston, New York, and Cleveland, like all 4,
yeah,
like the 3 last playoff series of the East will be fun, and then the West is just going to be like, I mean, Denver, Minnesota in the first round is an insane. Like, I was the one first round playoff series from way back that comes to mind is when the Clippers and the defending champion Spurs in 2015 went up
yeah,
against each other.
yep,
Chris Paul hits the game 7, not quite a buzzer beater, but hits the game winner in that series. And if I remember right, like those teams actually either shouldn't have faced off against each other because like the division winner threw off the standings, or like every team was separated by 1 game. Here I'm looking at it here. Yeah, so they were, yeah, that was the issue, is that Portland had to be the 4 seed because they were the division winner back then.
yeah,
And so like the Clippers and Spurs face off in the first round, 2 title contending teams, because of weird tiebreaker or whatever. That feels like what this Denver Minnesota series would potentially be. Like both these
yeah.
teams are insanely good and meeting off in the first round, and even like whoever wins that versus Oklahoma City in the second round is another like insane series. So it's
It's,
gonna be a fun
it's
final stretch and a fun playoffs.
it will be. I'm looking forward to it, man. We're at the final stretch now. Got the playoffs coming around the corner. That Houston game at the end, like you said, I think it's on the 10th, I believe. But
Correct.
10th of April. But that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a huge game right there for seeding purposes, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, or maybe the Wolves rattle off some wins. Houston kind of that'd be your path to getting up to the 3 seed is the Wolves rattle off a bunch of wins. Kind of Denver keeps up with, and Houston's like clinched the 6 seed by that game and they punt on it. That's
a possibility too. You're right.
That's a possibility. I mean, even like a good example of this, like the last game of the season versus New Orleans. Like New Orleans has been playing half decent basketball this season, but it's also like that's the last game of the season, even though they don't have incentive to lose. With only a game left, do they have incentive to even win? Who knows? So a lot still to be determined. I think the Lakers will end up winning enough games to kind of stave off the Wolves, but them, just like the Wolves, just like Denver, just like Houston, have been equally inconsistent as each other. So maybe they pull a Brooklyn loss out of their butt. Who knows?
You never know. It's all about who's hot at that time. Who's gonna rattle off some wins. So I'm hoping that, like I said last night, I'm hoping that gets the Timberwolves where they need to be. That defining moment for the season, and we're gonna find out.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the hope, is that's like a springboard type of game, and if it's not, we'll break that down too. Travis, anything to plug?
Just check out SneakerReporter.com. Check me on all socials. Sneaker Reporter. Definitely appreciate you, Ryan, for having me on here, and it's always fun when I get on Two Words, man. So I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback from the fans and being able to just be able to interact with them as well when they hear what we have to say as well. So I appreciate you for having me on, and it's always a pleasure, man. I'm glad you got me after a win in a defining win. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, it hasn't been as much the case this season, but certainly last year we promise you I didn't try to line it up this way, but last year it was like holy cow. Whatever fans remember, whatever worst games of the season from last year, you could go look it up. Almost every time Travis was on the pod immediately after. So not the case this year.
We're doing
especially
better.
Doing better. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Leo and I will be back early next week. For Travis, I'm Ryan. Thank you everyone for listening. Go Wolves.
Hey you!